We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. People say marriages die quietly, that one day you just wake up and realize the person lying next to you feels like a stranger. But for me, it wasn't quiet at all. It began with a noise, a laugh that didn't belong to me. It was a Friday night in Seattle, the kind of evening where the city lights look like falling stars reflected on wet asphalt. My wife, Melissa Carter, sat across from me at our favorite little Italian restaurant. She was scrolling through her phone, her eyes glowing brighter than the candle between us. "Work again?" I asked, half smiling. She didn't look up. "Robert just needs the new pitch slides before Monday." Robert, her boss at Harrison and Blake Marketing. The man whose name had started living rent-free inside my head. I forced a nod and picked at my food, pretending not to notice how quickly she typed, or the way her lips curved into that secret smile I hadn't seen in months. When we got home, she said she had to finish up a few emails. I went to bed alone. Around midnight, the faint chime of her laughter floated down the hallway, not from the office downstairs, but from the porch, where she whispered into her phone. That's when something cold settled in my chest. I didn't storm out. I didn't demand answers. I just lay there, eyes open, listening to the betrayal drip into my heart, one quiet giggle at a time. The next morning, I drove her to work. She leaned over, kissed my cheek, and said, "You're too good to me, Daniel." Maybe I was. By the time I got home, curiosity had turned into something darker. I opened her laptop, a mistake I knew I'd make eventually. She never logged out of her work email, trusting that I respected her privacy. I used to. There they were, hundreds of messages between Melissa and Robert Hale. At first, just harmless chatter. "Great job on the campaign. You're killing it at this company." But it escalated fast. Compliments turned into late-night jokes, then inside references, then subtle, unmistakable intimacy. And then the one that shattered me. "Robert, still thinking about last night. You left your necklace at the suite again. Melissa, keep it for me. A little secret between us." I sat there staring at those words until the letters blurred. My hands were shaking, not from rage, but from the quiet realization that I'd lost her long before that message existed. When she came home that night, she smelled like a hotel, clean sheets and someone else's cologne. She set her purse down and kissed my forehead like I was a brother she pitied. I played along, asked about her day, made her coffee, listened to her laugh at nothing. Inside, I was memorizing every detail, her tone, her expressions, the lies she'd rehearsed too well. Over the next week, I became an actor in my own house. I cooked breakfast, kissed her goodbye, told her she looked beautiful, and then followed her car to see where work really was. The first stop, a luxury hotel on Fifth Avenue. I parked across the street, watched her walk inside with Robert. My knuckles turned white against the steering wheel. They didn't even try to hide. I could have burst through those doors. I could have screamed, exposed them right there. But fury fades, precision lasts longer. And I wanted precision. That night, while she slept beside me, I began my quiet revenge. I spent hours collecting everything. Screenshots, call logs, parking receipts, even the photo of her hand and Robert's at a private event, which someone from her office had posted innocently on social media. Piece by piece, I built a timeline, so perfect it looked like a legal case. But vengeance isn't just about exposure. It's about impact. I wanted her to lose the one thing she cared about more than me, her image. At Harrison and Blake, Melissa was known as the firm's golden girl, confident, brilliant, flawless. Her co-workers admired her. Her boss desired her. Everyone saw the surface. No one saw the rot underneath. So I decided to peel that surface away. Slowly. Publicly. I created a plan so simple it almost felt poetic. Every morning, I'd sit on our porch, pretending to scroll through my phone while crafting anonymous messages, rumors that started to spread across our office group chats. Did you know Robert and Melissa travel for every pitch meeting together? He gave her the new marketing lead without even considering others. Small, harmless seeds of doubt. Within days, tension started brewing in her firm. She came home frustrated, muttering about office gossip, how people were jealous of her success. I pretended to comfort her, brushing her hair back, whispering, "You're stronger than them." And then, When the storm was perfectly ripe, I prepared the final act. I bought a small brown box, ordinary enough to look innocent. Inside, I placed copies of every email, every hotel receipt, and a single Polaroid of our wedding day. I wrote one sentence on the back. "This is the woman you promote." I sealed it tight, marked it confidential, and scheduled a same-day delivery to her office address to Melissa Carter, personal. The courier picked it up the next morning. She left home smiling, believing she'd survived another week of lies. She kissed me before stepping out the door. I watched her drive away, the weight of that kiss lingering like poison. I didn't go to work that day. I stayed home, waiting for my phone to ring. When it finally did, it wasn't Melissa. It was one of her coworkers, a number I hadn't seen in years. The voice on the other end trembled. "Daniel, I think you need to know what just happened at the office." I exhaled, almost smiling. "No," I said quietly. "I already do." I didn't rush to check my phone after that call. I just sat there in silence, coffee cooling beside me, watching the rain streak down the kitchen window. Every drop felt like a heartbeat slowing to a stop, because I knew, whatever happened in that office, it was only the beginning. An hour later, Melissa burst through the front door. Her hair was messy, her eyes wide, mascara smudged like she'd run through a storm. She didn't even close the door behind her. "Did you do this?" she shouted, voice trembling. I looked up from my chair calmly. "Do what?" She slammed her phone down on the table. The screen was full of messages from her coworkers, photos of the open box sitting in the middle of the office. My evidence laid out like a crime scene. The emails, the hotel bills, the photo of her holding hands with Robert. Everyone had seen it, even Robert's wife, who worked in the same building. "Daniel, how could you?" she whispered, her voice breaking. I stood slowly, meeting her eyes for the first time, without flinching. "No, Melissa. The real question is, how could you?" She covered her face, shaking. "You ruined my career. Everyone thinks I'm some homewrecker." Robert's wife came screaming into the office. Security had to pull her away. I crossed my arms, my voice low and even. "Good. Maybe now everyone sees who you really are." Her knees wobbled. She sank into the nearest chair. "You've destroyed me." I walked past her toward the kitchen, grabbing my keys. "No, Melissa. You destroyed yourself. I just sent the receipts." She followed me, desperate now, reaching for my arm. "Please, you don't understand. It wasn't supposed to go that far. He made me feel seen. You were always so calm, so predictable. I just wanted to feel alive again." I stopped, the words slicing through me. "Alive." I repeated. "You wanted to feel alive by lying to me? By sneaking into hotel rooms and calling it work? You killed what we had the moment you stopped talking to me and started laughing with him." Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. The silence said everything. For the next few days, she barely left the house. Her company suspended her pending an internal review. Robert resigned quietly to avoid scandal, but the story spread through the corporate world like wildfire. Melissa's name was everywhere it shouldn't be. Every night, she sat by the window, phone in her lap, waiting for calls that never came. The woman who once glowed with confidence now looked like a ghost wearing her own skin. And me? I thought revenge would feel sweet, but it didn't. It felt quiet, heavy, like justice mixed with grief. One evening, she came into the living room while I was packing a suitcase. Her voice was faint. "You're leaving?" "Yeah," I said simply. I already found an apartment downtown. Tears welled in her eyes. "Daniel, please. I know I hurt you. I can't undo it, but I'm still your wife." I zipped my bag and turned to her. "You were, but you left long before I did. I just finally caught up." She took a shaky breath. "You got your revenge. Everyone hates me now. Isn't that enough?" I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I'd once dreamed of growing old with. "No, Melissa. This wasn't revenge. This was truth. The truth you kept hiding behind pretty words and perfume. You thought I'd never find out, that I'd stay quiet. But silence is what kills love, not truth." Her knees gave out, and she collapsed into the couch, sobbing into her hands. I almost pitied her. Almost. But pity can't rebuild trust. I walked out that night, not because I hated her, but because I finally loved myself enough to leave. Weeks passed. I started over. New place, new rhythm, new peace. Some nights, the loneliness clawed at me, but at least it was honest. I threw myself into my work, repairing houses with a small construction crew. It was the kind of job where your hands hurt, your back ached, but your mind stayed quiet. One afternoon, as I was fixing a broken railing at a client's house, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of it. I hope you find happiness, Daniel." I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. Some scars don't need closure. They just need time. A few months later, I heard Melissa had left Seattle. Rumor was she'd moved to Oregon to start fresh, working under a different name. I didn't hate her for it. In some strange way, I hoped she found peace too. But I also knew she'd never forget the day that brown box arrived. The moment her perfect facade cracked in front of everyone. One evening, my friend Mark asked me if I regretted what I'd done. I thought about it for a long while before answering. Regret? Maybe a little. I didn't want to destroy her. I just wanted her to know how much she'd destroyed me. He nodded slowly. And now, I said quietly, I'm free. The truth is, betrayal doesn't end with the exposure. It ends when you stop letting it define you. I used to wake up every morning wondering where I went wrong. Now I wake up grateful that I saw the truth, even if it hurt. Sometimes you don't get closure. Sometimes you just get clarity. And sometimes, that's enough. 6 months passed. Time had a strange way of dulling the edges of pain, but not erasing it. Some nights I'd still roll over and reach out instinctively. Then remember that side of the bed was empty now. The faint scent of her perfume had finally faded from the sheets, replaced by the smell of fresh paint and sawdust from my latest renovation job. It was peaceful, honest, but quiet peace can also be haunting. I tried to fill the silence with work. The crew I worked with, tough guys who barely talked about anything other than sports and overtime, never asked what happened. They didn't need to. They could read the story written on my face. Every nail I hammered, every wall I sanded down, it all felt like therapy, like I was rebuilding more than houses. Then one morning, out of nowhere, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, until a familiar voice broke through. "Daniel? It's me. Melissa." For a second, I couldn't breathe. The city traffic outside faded into a hum. "What do you want, Melissa?" Her tone was hesitant, fragile. I didn't call to fight. I need to say something before I disappear for good. I leaned back against the truck door, closing my eyes. "You already disappeared." She sighed softly. "You were right about everything. I kept blaming stress, my job, Robert, but it was me. I was the one who got lost. You were the only person who ever truly saw me, and I threw that away." Her voice cracked, and for the first time in months, I could hear real regret. Not performance, not manipulation, just raw guilt. "Melissa," I said quietly, "I don't hate you anymore, but I can't go back there. Too much broke between us." "I know," she whispered. "I just wanted you to know I'm trying to be better. I'm volunteering now, helping at a community center in Portland. I figured if I couldn't undo what I did, I could at least do something right." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. The woman who'd once been consumed by ambition was now somewhere far from the boardrooms and spotlights, helping people she'd once walked past without a glance. Maybe guilt had changed her. Maybe life had finally humbled her. Either way, it wasn't my responsibility anymore. "I'm glad you're doing that," I said softly. "Really? Take care of yourself, Daniel," she said, and hung up. That was the last time we ever spoke. Life moved on. Slowly, but it did. I focused on rebuilding, not just my home, but myself. There's something strange about rediscovering who you are after betrayal. You start small, making coffee the way you like it, not how they liked it. Listening to music without skipping the songs that remind you of them. Relearning how to smile without pretending. It was during one of my weekend repair jobs that I met Claire Turner. She was a single mom who'd recently bought a rundown property on the outskirts of the city. Her teenage son, Eli, helped me carry tools around while she handled the paperwork. "You work fast," she said one afternoon, standing by the porch while I replaced the railings. "Guess I've had enough practice fixing things that were falling apart," I replied with a faint grin. She laughed, a sound that was warm, real, and unpretentious. There was no flirtation in her tone, no games, just sincerity. That alone felt like a breath of fresh air. Over the next few weeks, we talked more about work, about parenting, about how life never really goes the way you plan. She told me her husband had walked out years ago, leaving her to raise Eli on her own. Yet, instead of bitterness, she carried quiet strength. One evening, as I was packing up my tools, she brought out 2 mugs of coffee. "You ever stop working long enough to just sit down and breathe?" she teased. I smiled, taking the cup. "Not really. Breathing feels strange when you're used to holding your breath for years." Her expression softened. "Then maybe it's time you exhale, Daniel." I looked at her, the fading sunset reflecting in her eyes, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I did. I let go. Weeks turned into months, and the job at Claire's house became more than just work. It was healing. She never pried about my past, but she saw the pain without needing the story. Sometimes that's all you need. Someone who sees the scars and doesn't ask for the details. One evening, as we were repainting her living room, Eli pointed to the photo on the wall. "That's Dad," he said. "He left, but Mom still says he wasn't all bad." Claire gave him a small smile. "He taught us what we deserve, didn't he?" Her words hit me harder than she realized. Because that's what betrayal teaches you. Not bitterness, but clarity. You learn what love shouldn't feel like. That night, as I walked back to my truck, I realized something important. Revenge had given me closure, but kindness was giving me peace. I had exposed Melissa's lies, yes, but this quiet, honest connection with people who didn't wear masks was the true victory. A few months later, Claire's renovation was complete. She invited me to dinner to thank me. It wasn't romantic, not yet, just real. We sat outside, watching the city lights blink in the distance, a soft breeze rustling the trees. "You ever think about starting over?" she asked gently. "I already did," I said, smiling faintly. "I just didn't realize it until now." She raised her glass. "Then here's to second chances." I clinked mine against hers, the sound small but meaningful. For the first time since the day my world had fallen apart, I wasn't thinking about the past. I was thinking about what came next. And maybe that's the real revenge. Not ruining someone's life, but rebuilding yours so beautifully that the pain becomes irrelevant. That night, as I drove home under the soft hum of streetlights, I caught my reflection in the mirror. No bitterness, no anger, just quiet strength. I'd found closure, not through vengeance, but through finally living again. A year later, I barely recognized my life. The man I used to be, the quiet husband waiting at home, doubting himself in the mirror, was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, calmer, and strangely content. The construction business had grown faster than I ever expected. Word spread about my reliability and fairness, and soon I was managing my own small crew. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. Every house I built or repaired felt symbolic, like another piece of myself being restored brick by brick. One chilly morning, as I was loading lumber into my truck, my phone buzzed. It was an email. No name, no subject line. Just a single sentence. "I saw you on the community news today. You looked happy." "I'm glad." It was from Melissa. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen. There was no anger left, no sadness, just quiet understanding. I didn't reply. She didn't need words from me anymore. We both served our sentences in silence. A few days later, Claire invited me and my crew to her son's high school fundraiser. It was nothing fancy, a local event with kids selling baked goods and performing songs on a small stage. But when Eli stepped up to play guitar and Claire watched from the crowd, her face glowing with pride, I felt something deep in my chest shift again. It wasn't love in the cinematic sense. It was gratitude. Gratitude for being seen, for being trusted again. After the event, we walked outside under strings of lights. Claire looked at me with that same calm warmth she always carried. "You've changed a lot since we met," she said softly. I chuckled. Guess I needed to break down before I could rebuild. She smiled. "That's what strong people do." For a moment, I just looked at her. This woman who'd quietly taught me that healing doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with slow evenings, shared laughter, and the courage to start again. Later that night, as I drove home, I took the long way along the waterfront. The city shimmered on the horizon, and the air was crisp with the smell of rain. I rolled down my window, letting the wind rush in. I thought back to the moment I'd mailed that box, the anger, the bitterness, the heartbreak. Back then, I believed revenge would fix what you broke. But now, I realized something deeper. Revenge might give you closure, but forgiveness gives you freedom. Not forgiveness for them, but for yourself. Because holding on to rage is like gripping a knife by the blade. You only end up bleeding longer. That night, I got home and placed an old photo album on the table. It was filled with pictures of Melissa and me from the early days, back when love felt simple. I flipped through a few pages, smiled faintly, and then closed it for the last time. Some chapters aren't meant to be rewritten. They're meant to be learned from. I placed the album in a box, sealed it, and wrote a single word on top. Done. Then I set it on the shelf. Not hidden, not destroyed, just finished. Weeks later, Claire and I began spending more time together. Not rushing, not labeling, just sharing small, genuine moments. Laughter over morning coffee, helping her fix a leaky faucet, listening to her talk about her dreams for the future. I didn't know where it would go, and for once, that uncertainty didn't scare me. Because I'd learned something powerful. When you stop trying to rewrite your past, your future finally has room to begin. As I turned off the lights that night, I caught my reflection in the window. For the first time in years, I wasn't haunted by memories. I was illuminated by hope. And maybe that was the real ending all along. Not the revenge, not the heartbreak, but the peace that came after.